All right, Johnny, what's up, man?
It's good, man.
Sweet. So I just wanted to record a short little video today, just introducing SprintPage and letting people really get to know the team and who's behind SprintPage. So today I just want to focus on you and talk about your journey as a sales rep at a startup, at an enterprise company, and then now at this agency we're building together. So I think it'd be awesome for people just to like hear your journey and then kind of you can share some of your insights on how those different environments are helping us create better sales and outreach campaigns for B2B companies at scale. So sweet. Let's just jump in and yeah, if you could introduce yourself and talk a little bit about maybe how you got started in sales and then how you landed your first job at Sizzle.
Yeah. Johnny Brask. I'm co-founding SprintPage with Jack here. Yeah, going back to, I think like since I was a kid, really, I'm raised in a family like full of salespeople. Like my dad, my mom, my brothers grew up to be both in sales, and then my sister's a third grade teacher. But
I'm sure that
yeah,
requires a bit of sales skills as well.
well, yeah. I mean, she built the patience by being my sister, and now she can put up with a bunch of whatever 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. But yeah, I think like since I was a kid, it was always like that path was kind of set for me. I sold like fly swatters, electric fly swatters as like a 4-year-old, like went door to door selling fly swatters, and then had to like bring all the cash that I had made to my neighbor who like sent me out on this mission to sell fly swatters, and found out that I had to like pay him his cut, and
Yeah.
like outed for like a week straight because I had to pay him because like I went around selling all these fly swatters. But like I think I've always kind of known that I was going to be in sales. And I think when I got into college, like my freshman year, I started studying economics, and quickly found out by not being able to pass calculus that I was meant for sales, and sales was not only the path I was supposed to take, but the only path I could take. So I actually started my freshman year in sales when I was 18 at Great Lakes, which was an e-commerce company selling in person, like more of like a field sales role, like setting up shops and selling a brand, which was super cool. And Great Lakes is an awesome company. And then, yeah, sophomore year when I was 19, got into the account management team at Sizzle for like 2-3 months. And then that manager actually referred me. He's like, you need to be on the sales team, put me on the sales team, got me on the phones where I was selling Sizzle, a buy now, pay later solution for like 2.5 years. And then that really like, go ahead.
Could you talk a little bit about Sizzle as a company and kind of where they were, when you kind of leveled up to that sales team?
Yeah. So when I found them, they were when I found them on LinkedIn, they were like the fastest growing startup in Minneapolis at the time. And I was at the University of Minnesota. So I was like, this is a company I want to go to, and I want to be a part of like their sales process. And this is where I want to learn. I've always had like the idea of like being in a startup in my mind, like when I was like a teen and all that stuff. So yeah, I joined at like 100 employees. I was like in their hiring cohort that was like, we hit 100 employees. And then when I left in 2022, I think they were just under 500 or 400 employees, between 400 and 500. And yeah, I mean, in that time, I was able to see so much and like sell to mid-market enterprise, like sit in on cool deals, watch like the Barstool Sports deal, like go like the whole way. And just got to learn from a ton of insanely talented, great minds. And yeah, and then that's actually when you and I met, Jack, I was at Sizzle and I was selling Sizzle. So the call, I still remember the call that you heard me doing, and that was more because I was able to do like a full cycle SDR role. So that was really cool. Like being at a startup, I was able to like not poach, but like find deals and like completely like source these deals on my own, and then run a deal from like intro call to close all the way to like integration. So like I'd find someone, I'd be like, this person's like perfect for Sizzle. And then like if I wanted to, and like my AE was cool with it, he's like, yeah, take it and run with it. And I could like close. And that call, I believe that you heard me on in that coffee shop, like, that was one of those calls that was an intro call that ended up closing like same first call, which was sweet. And it was honestly like one of my best sales calls that I've been on. And like you happened to be in there.
Yeah. I'll share that story from my perspective from people who haven't heard it. So in Whitefish, Montana, I was just, working remotely one day from the coffee shop, and I overhear this kid on the phone, and I can hear that he's selling some type of software solution, and he's like super energetic, and he's like halfway across the coffee shop. And at this point, I'm looking for help to scale up the agency. We hadn't called it SprintPage yet, but we knew that we wanted to scale up an agency, and I was like, man, this kid's got energy. I should just go ask him like what he's selling, who's he working for, like maybe he wants to team up. And that's how I first got in touch with Johnny. So that's just a good piece of SprintPage history right there. And yeah, it's awesome to hear that very call ended up being like a huge deal for you, and that was like the very beginning of it, huh?
Yeah, no, I still remember that same call, but yeah, that was an awesome day.
Yeah, so at Sizzle, when you were doing these outreach programs, like how are you making first contact with some of these deals that were able to go, further and further down the pipeline?
Yeah, so I'll get deeper on that, and then I'll also kind of show and I'll elaborate as to where I went with Snowflake, because I think that's really interesting. But yeah, with Sizzle, we were like finding the contacts. We were finding everything on our own as SDRs, right? We didn't have, I don't know, I can't speak on where they're at now, but like when I was there, we had no like enablement or operations team like finding contacts for us. So we were using like this tool called eTail Insights and like Zoom Info and literally scouring the internet and finding e-commerce brands, and then like finding contacts there, pushing them into Salesforce, which it's not some big like it was moderately easy to do.
Yeah.
But like when you get into enterprise and everything's at your fingertips, it's a little different. But at Sizzle, it was like you found everything, you found the numbers, you found the emails, you found the names, LinkedIn's, all that stuff on your own. So that was like a whole another part of the job, was like true prospecting and like gritty prospecting. Like me and one of my coworkers, like we like set up Instagrams and would like DM brands on Instagram and be like, you should use Sizzle, you should use Sizzle, like by any means necessary. We were like putting the name out there, and like it worked. And we found like a ton of cool ways to like get in front of people. And like I said, like I was able to work some sweet deals, and like I was really bought into the product, really brought into like the mission. Still am. I'm still a huge supporter of Sizzle. But yeah, I mean, that the prospecting was super gritty and super fun. And like, so but what I will say, the last thing I'll say is like, it made you really want to like complete that deal cycle, like seeing it birth from like nothing and like bringing it from like just a dude's name on eTail all the way to like a closed one on Salesforce is like a really cool kind of like trajectory to be a part of. And then just doing it over and over and over again was like sweet. And like as an SDR, like you're not just setting the meeting, like at a startup, at least, like if you're at the right startup and they trust you, you're able to like work that deal all the way through and like be on calls. And like, if your account executive or whoever you're working with, like trusts you, they're like, if you want to pop in and say anything, like if you hear something and you want to talk on this call, like go for it. That's a really cool thing to be able to do. I was like 20 years old talking to like 60-year-old CFOs. Like it was a cool time for sure.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, yeah, I mean, I love like the just like the get the job done attitude of the startup. So and then you ended up going to the enterprise world. So after Sizzle, you kind of jumped into one of the fastest growing companies, Snowflake. How was that different than that kind of gritty startup world as far as like the sales process?
I think so. I think the biggest difference, like I said, like that going from like eTail to closed one, that is like way more like deal centered. Like an SDR, like you're just trying to open deals. You have all these contacts, all these accounts already in Salesforce, and It's mostly like, hey, go reach out to these people. So you're able to get like super strategic. So like I worked at one point, I think with I had like 4 or 5 account executives I was working with, which was pretty gnarly. And they moved me to like a very like greenfield patch, which is like all prospect accounts, as opposed to some SDRs like just try to upsell customer accounts. So like there was a point where I was selling more into like open field and like in like the Rust Belt of Ohio, and which was sweet because I liked it. And we were able to get like a lot done. But I'll give one example. Before I went to Ohio, I worked in the Milwaukee, like Wisconsin patch, and we opened up a really sweet deal. I don't know, I probably can't share the exact name of the company, but it ended up being like a $2-3 million deal and was mentioned in our earnings call. And I started out that like opening up that deal with a meeting with an account manager, like from this company, because like the cool thing about Snowflake is it helps everybody in your organization, not just the data scientists. It connects everybody. And it's fairly easy to use. So like we showed an account manager, someone on like the revenue side of the business, like what we could do for them. And then we like asked like her, hey, where should we go next? Because she loved it. And then like it was just this like trickle effect, this domino effect of like meeting until we ultimately met with the decision maker. And it progressed super fast from there because we were able to speak on, we just educated your entire organization. Revenue, data, all these people. And that's because like as an SDR, like I was like, I want everybody to know like what Snowflake is here. And then like from there, like we have like a whole band of people behind us. And like before we meet with this decision maker. So I took like definitely a different approach because this account people have been selling to this account for 5 years, 6 years at Snowflake. And then, I come in with another account executive who is an absolute killer. And we just like, we got something going like right away. He was brand new to the company. I was brand new to the company, and we got this thing closed. And I mean, he got it closed, but it was sweet. That was an awesome deal. But like, that's kind of the main difference. Like at Snowflake, it was like, I was able to like really hone in on the deal cycle and like opening up a deal and then making it run. Whereas with Sizzle, it was, we'd like get into like the enterprise realm, but like enterprise sales, like these are like decision makers, people with like millions and millions and millions of dollars of budget that like these cycles can take like 1 to 2 years. And it's sweet if they don't, but like realistically they do. So yeah, I mean, that was more of like an SDR in the enterprise realms, mostly selling like the deal cycle and like opening those deals. And then just like their job is to keep them going. Like if conversations go cold, it's like, hey, we haven't talked to this guy in a while. Like Johnny, go get him, or like go find, like, let's jump over him and like talk to his boss or something like that.
I mean, it's awesome to hear you tell that story of, right, you're selling these super high dollar enterprise engagements, and your strategy was to go get an internal champion, within that prospect company, right? So you're not trying to go right after the CFO, VP, or whatever. You landed an account manager and started the conversation, getting the snowball rolling to finally work your way up to that enterprise sale that was mentioned on the earnings call there. So
it makes sense if you think about it, because like the common SDR is going to come into their seat and like want to speak to the CIO of Target, right? They're gonna be like, we need to get in front of the CIO. We need to get, and then they're going to send that CIO hundreds of emails. They're just going to put them in sequences. They're going to cold call them, never going to get in touch with them. But like you said, like that internal champion approach to prospecting is 100% the way. Like that is the way to prospect, in my opinion. It's a great way, especially in enterprise, like especially when you feel like you have nowhere to start. Like start with someone that you just like could show like value to, like easily, like some like entry level person, and be like, hey, let me buy you lunch, or like you don't need to do that, but like if you're like, if you do that, like, hey, let me buy you a coffee, like I'll, like if you're in the same city or whatever it is, or like over Zoom, whatever, just like get them in front of you and like let yourself show them value. That's a great way to just like at least open a deal.
Cool. So now let's talk a little bit about like what we're building now. So since you have been in the startup world, you've been in the enterprise world, what we're doing here as SprintPage is we're helping early stage Series A, Series B, B2B companies just completely level up their sales and marketing funnels. So let's talk a little bit about like how we're doing this, what we're building, and how we're helping companies with their sales processes, including some of the marketing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's for me, like what I'm bringing to the table here in like sales development and sales as a whole is I think there's a lot of companies that don't even have like a sales development approach to sales, which is like, for example, like that, like spearheading and opening up deals by any means necessary, or like how people are doing that, I think is like what we are bringing to the table for like every B2B company. Um, and yeah, I think like just with our outreach approach and the emails that we're able to build aligned with our marketing initiatives as well, is no one's doing it like us. No one even has, you know, a similar approach. And yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, for the viewers, like a little bit more about what SprintPage does is SprintPage runs 30-day sprints that completely transform your B2B marketing and sales funnels. So we make it super easy for founding teams or early stage companies who are growing fast to launch premium quality marketing funnels and outbound sales as well. So we really try to align sales and marketing. That's the number one thing SprintPage is trying to do. So not only do we find that once you have premium level marketing assets, it's also much better to have an embedded SDR on your team. John, could you talk about our process for kind of embedding in a team and how we can maybe start to evolve a company's sales sequences?
Yeah, like what we did with our first client is I met with their sales team, and I really like in our calls with them, I just listened to like what their approach was to the deal cycle and to like opening deals. I took notes on that, but then when I really got to like kind of sit with their team, and sometimes it's founders doing the sales like directly, but this specific client like had a sales team already. So I listened to like what they were doing, what wasn't working, what was working, and then I kind of brought my approach, and like my approach is interesting because obviously I have like the sales development in startups and in enterprise, and there's things to learn from both, and they are very like a lot more similar than you'd think. And you can kind of combine the knowledge between the two, and it's sweet being at like a B2B like software company that's just like two sales reps that have been doing it for like 2.5 years, 3 years, whatever. So you can see like what works, but then you can also see like it almost seems like some reps, and every sales team's different, but like we kind of bring like a purpose of like not over complicating the sales process, and not saying that it's like too simple, but like finding what works and then shortening it down, tightening it down, sending it out with as much packed value, and like the copy is readable. It's not like a 4-paragraph email. It's like we try to keep like 1 to 2 sentences per line and no more than like four lines. And like in those 4 lines, like, and this is just email, right? This is just email copy, but like you are going to have the most value, the most readable, and like the idea is for a prospect to read said email and like want to be like, okay, I want to find out more about this. Not be like completely educated and know everything that you do, but like read it and be like, like this is interesting. This could help me. So like that's the approach that we took with our founding client, like our first client, and it was sweet. Like we're already running that sequence, and we're actually going to run like an A/B sequence, and then I'm eventually like get to a point where we merge the two and see what works. But yeah, I think we just help people like get there. Like we like help them start rather than like spending the whole first month of Q1 like putting together the best email and outreach sequence. We just start our sequence with them, and it's good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing all that. I mean, it's 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 totally. I mean, you got to a huge point of what SprintPage does. SprintPage makes things very simple but better, right? We tried to do less but better. So our emails are going to be shorter, our web pages are going to be simpler, our funnels are going to be more precise. And that's just going to drive a higher quality lead through your sales pipeline. Especially when the messaging they see out online is the same as the messaging that hits them, when they hop on their first sales call. That's the whole SprintPage philosophy, is aligned sales and marketing. So, John, I think that's all the time we have today. But if you guys want to learn more about SprintPage, you can go to sprintpage.io to check out our offer and book a call with us. We'd be happy to talk with everybody. And yeah, thanks for listening, John. Anything else you have to say?
No, reach out. Let's talk. Thanks,
Sweet.
Jack.
All right. SprintPage out.
Peace.
Bye.